I want to drag it back to our shores here now, though, and talk about Labour Party's conference in Liverpool. We all remember that, don't we? I was there, of course. Labour MPs, they were just falling over themselves to claim that the scourge of anti-Semitism has been purged out of the party, one after the other. They lined up and they said to me that we all stand with Israel, that, you know, absolutely, the old ghost of Jeremy Corbyn has gone, and there's fruity people outside Parliament waving the Palestinian flag and saying some rather interesting things about Zionism, etc. They no longer represent the Labour Party. But, as events last week have shown, the cause of Palestinian solidarity is still a pressing issue in Starmer's party, as former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn addressed a rally, and that was outside Downing Street. But more importantly, we've had some other developments, OK? So Labour MPs were very quick to jump on these unverified claims that the blast at the Gaza hospital was an Israeli strike. It's the usual suspects, obviously. We've got John McDonnell and Zara Sultana. She's tweeting more than 500 people have been killed after an Israeli airstrike. Political leaders of all parties, including my own, must call for an urgent ceasefire. And at a more local level, Keir Starmer has now had to write to a load of Labour councillors because they have criticised him, in fact some have resigned, over his stance on Israel, which is that they stand with Israel and call for a two-state solution. So I'm asking, can the Jewish community actually trust the Labour Party? With me now is Naomi Wimborne Idrissi, a spokesperson for Jewish Voice for Labour. Thank you very much. Great to have you on the show.
Nice to meet you.
Just ask it, really, I suppose. Do you think the Jewish community can trust Labour?
Well, I joined the Labour Party after a long pause in 2015 because I, like many Jews with my political perspective, were very encouraged by the appearance at the leadership of the Labour Party of somebody who shared our values. That is to do with equality and justice, to do with fairness, to do with support for public services, defending the NHS, rights for people at work, and peace on the international stage, and ethical foreign policy. We were very keen on those values. When Jeremy Corbyn was in the leadership, we found that all these subjects were open for discussion and debate. There was free and fair openness and respect for each other's views, and a lot of really interesting ideas were developed while Jeremy was leader. And as Jews, we felt very welcome.
Under Jeremy Corbyn? Under Jeremy
Corbyn.
Throughout?
Absolutely throughout.
Really?
Absolutely throughout, yes. The hostility that some of us faced came from people who were hostile to Corbyn.
Right.
Now, this is not well known. When Jeremy Corbyn was ousted, having failed in the 2019 election, after a very creditable performance in the 2017 election, because the ideas that he put forward, that we shared, won the confidence of a huge number of voters, as you will remember. Biggest increase in an opposition party's vote since 1945.
Can I ask, how has the wider Jewish community responded to your views? Because there is a perception that there is a lot of anti-Israeli and potentially with it anti-Semitic feeling from people of that certain wing of the Labour Party.
OK, well, I'm going to take a little step back and just point out that since Corbyn's demise and since the leadership of Keir Starmer, Jews have actually faced, Jews with my sort of views, have faced a kind of a purge. So at least 60 people going right through from the Corbyn days when the bureaucracy that sympathises with Starmer was in control, and now under Starmer, we have been either investigated or suspended, or actually expelled, in my case and a dozen others, for accusations related to anti-Semitism. People may find this strange, and the reason that's happening is because the idea that to keep Jews safe, you have to have a sort of unfettered pro-Israeli stance in international political affairs.
I think is it not that actually, you know, support calling Hamas friends?
No, I'm sorry, I don't want to... See, you're going to turn it back onto allegations that were made against Jeremy.
It's not all of which... Does it happen?
Yeah, but diplomats always call one another friends. Whether
not
they
really
mean
terrorists.
But it's all right for our leaders to go and call people like the Saudi leadership friends. That's fine, apparently. So, look, you know...
No, but I'm just saying you can understand that's why people felt as though there were anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, that the group of people who have now gone around, you know, potentially beheading babies in Israel.
Careful, Patrick, because that is one of many stories that has come out from the Israeli side, which is doubtful. Okay. You know, we can't accept everything that comes from that side.
So you genuinely don't think that babies were killed or beheaded by Hamas
I have
in
no
Israel?
idea, Patrick. How would I know? How would you know? I know that the Israelis habitually do lie about these things, but why are we talking about Israel? We're supposed to be talking about keeping Jewish people
I think it's important for people to get a bit of context about where you kind of stand on certain things, right? So you genuinely do not believe would you call Hamas terrorists?
I'm not going to talk. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about keeping.
But you still remember that? No, but
you're doing what you do when Palestinian.
To be honest, I'm not really trying to do anything. I think you're doing a lot yourself. I'm genuinely just asking, whether or not the Jewish community should be safe or feel safe in the Labour Party. I think it's really
absolutely. Of course, they can be safe in the Labour Party.
Yeah, but if the Labour Party still the Labour Party still supports views, which is why I'm asking these questions, along the lines of not calling Hamas terrorists, maybe even calling them friends.
That's not a view. That is a way of approaching an issue. We have had terrible suffering in Israel and Palestine over the last nearly a fortnight now. All civilian deaths are horrendous. Whoever.
Are there a lot of people in the Labour Party who feel like you do?
Yeah. Yes, of course there are lots.
And do you
That's
think
why
that
there are these resignations. That's why there were going to be huge demonstrations at the weekend.
Fine. And so that's my point then. So do you think that...
And lots of them are Jewish, excuse me. I'm going after this... Can I just say?
Yeah.
After this discussion with you, I'm going straight to a demonstration called by a group of young Jews who want to express their horror at the ongoing suffering, what they see as ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. And what happened on October the 7th is horrendous and abhorrent. It is, and I'm not going to deny that. But
you are kind of denying it, though, aren't you?
No, but I've said...
Because you are kind of denying... No, but you are kind of... But you are denying what people are saying has happened.
There is a greater context.
Right.
And that Palestinians have been suffering murders and dispossession and torture.
Well, you know what I'm going to ask now. So does that justify the beheading of babies?
No, of course it doesn't. But does the beheading of babies justify the slaughter, which probably didn't happen anyway? Because you're assuming something that is not proven.
That isn't. So you are genuinely on national television.
Yes.
Completely. You're going as far as saying it probably didn't happen.
No, I'm not. I'm saying it's not proven.
Right. You did just say it probably didn't happen.
No, you did
say
it's not
that.
proven.
Right.
It may not have happened. We do not know whether it happened. If it did happen, and anyway...
Did the moon landing happen?
The slaughter of...
No,
the slaughter of 1,700 Israelis on October the 7th is abhorrent, and it should never have happened. But does it justify the flattening of the entirety of Gaza, the killing now of up to 3,000 Palestinians, the drive to force them out of the territory which they inhabit, because most of them are refugees anyway from the last decades of dispossession from their land. So all I'm asking for is, well, two things really. One is, please don't assume that taking a particular stance on Israel makes Jews in this country safer, because in fact what's happening at the moment is generating a lot of divisiveness and fear among Jews and hatred, and fear among Muslims too, who are being demonized. Do you think the
average Jewish person on the street will take comfort from you saying that your views, which are highly sceptical about a massacre of Jewish babies, are prevalent in the Labour Party?
Patrick, I really feel that you're not taking me seriously here in this discussion.
I'm taking you incredibly seriously.
No, because I'm trying to talk about the reality in the Middle East and what that means for Jews in this country, and also the dynamic at the moment in the Labour Party. And the Labour Party's leadership at the moment seems to believe that by taking a certain stance on Israel, it can bring...
So what would you want them to say? What would you want Keir Starmer to have as his stance on this now, then?
I think he should abhor the deaths of all civilians, Jewish and Palestinian. I think he should insist on observing international law, which Israel has never done throughout its occupation of the West Bank, where, by the way, 60 people have been killed this year by Israeli settlers and IDF. They matter too, don't they? Also, the 250 Palestinians who were killed in the West Bank before October the 7th, nothing to do with Hamas, nothing to do with retaliation against that appalling attack. He should be calling for an immediate ceasefire. He should be calling for meaningful political intervention from the West, which has influence. Nobody else has influence over Israel, only the American government and to some extent European governments, to say you have to end the occupation of the West Bank, you have to end the siege on Gaza, and you have to create a situation where Jews and Palestinians, who are Christian as well as Muslim, by the way, can live in peace and security. If the Labour Party had that position, which I think it would have if Corbyn was still in the leadership, but it doesn't have at the moment, then I think Jews in this country could feel safer and more confident in their relations with
it is an anecdotal fact, but I think it is a pretty reasonable thing for me to say that the vast majority of Jews do feel safer under Keir Starmer's current policy than they did.
Well, it may be, but
than they did under Jeremy Corbyn.
There's a huge misconception going around that until Jeremy Corbyn came along, all Jews voted Labour. About 15%.
Yeah, certainly not. Yeah,
15% of Jews, roughly, voted Labour when it had a Jewish leader.
Do you think, as a result of what you've come on television and said today, that more or less Jews are going to come out and vote for Labour, having heard what you've said?
Well, I am very critical of the leadership at the moment, and I think...
His wife's Jewish, though, isn't she?
That shouldn't have anything to do with it, should it?
But you would imagine it would influence, but you would imagine it would probably influence his...
in that case, it's influencing him in a very unfortunate way, because if he is using his wife's connection with Israel as a way of helping him decide what his policies are, and he's interpreting...
As opposed to using his connections with Hamas?
As opposed to thinking strategically, as a political leader should, and say, OK...
So Jeremy Corbyn was thinking strategically when he
Absolutely.
was when he was closer with an Islamist terror group?
Jeremy was looking at the situation as it has unfolded over the last 7 decades. Right. He was identifying the root causes, which are, and international institutions agree with this, the illegal occupation.
I'm going to just ask you,
which Keir Starmer is refusing to criticise. So that's why I think there may be many Jews who look at Keir Starmer and say, big friend of Israel, I'm going to vote for him. I think they would be misguided. If that's the kind of leader they want, then they should vote for him, absolutely.
Would you rather live under Hamas or in Israel?
That's such a very foolish question, Patrick. Will
you answer it?
Well, of course I wouldn't want to live. I'm not an Islamist fundamentalist, am I?
OK.
But it's not... Do you think that by going in and flattening the entirety of Gaza, driving the entire population into the desert, which is what is going to happen now, that will solve the problem? Of course it won't. There will always be Palestinian resistance.
OK.
There will always be... And it takes a form... Last Saturday, which was hateful. Usually it takes the form of demonstrators who were shot dead at the border of Gaza, as happened last summer. Or it takes the form of people wanting to boycott Israel, which is peaceful and entirely legitimate, and being told that should be illegal because it's anti-Semitic. It is not anti-Semitic to try and seek peace, justice and equality for everybody in the Middle East. That's what we want Keir Starmer to do. If he does it, I would say Jews and everybody should support him. Until he does, I'm dubious.
Well, I must say, I have found this fascinating. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate that kind of robust discussion. It's been interesting to have you on the show. Thank you very, very much. And enjoy the demonstration you're going to, or the gathering that you're going to. There you go. Yes, OK. All right. Well, there we go. It's Naomi Wimborne Idrissi there, who is a spokesperson for Jewish Voice for Labour.